A BB for Hody and straight black pride, brothers and sisters. This is your brother, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. You also can check us out at onthewakeupradio.com. That's onthewakeupradio.com. Before I get started tonight, I want to thank everyone for your support. People have been sending me money, and people have been messaging me, trying to see if I'm good and everything like that. And before we get started, man, I have a confession to make. First of all, let me acknowledge some people in the house here early. BB for Hodier to Sister Tia, BB for Hodier Straight Black Pride, Brother Elijah, BB for Hodier, brother you got ripped off, one of the strongest brothers out here, representing Straight Black Pride movement. Greeting the Straight Black Pride, the Sister Matrell, who every time I see her on Instagram, she's traveling somewhere around the world, living her best life. BB for Hodier to Spirit, Mind, Character, Soul. Good to see you, sister. Let's see who we got down here. I thought I saw peace and blessings to Brother Crow. And I thought I saw Sister Nina. Oh, okay. Peace and blessings to Sister Nina. Talked to her earlier. And I know there's some other people here, but not necessarily in the chat. See, the numbers are coming up relatively strong considering I haven't been here for a while. So for those that don't know, that may not follow me on Instagram, let me first of all state why you haven't seen me before there, brother Kevin. I haven't been on YouTube because I received yet another community strike. Hotep to Real Talk with ZSJ. I received yet another community strike from YouTube. And it was so interesting because they went back and retroactively took down a video that I did on a gentleman who expired from C19 after receiving the one of the early jabs. And so they took that down and gave me a strike. And my first thought was like, whatever, I don't care. That was my first thought, to be completely honest. My second thought was, you know what, maybe I should challenge this. And so I watched the video. Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Because I watched it, because that's the review process. I'm like, hey, all right, let's like sort of watch this together. So I can show you where you're wrong type of thing. That's how they do it. And let me know y'all can hear me clearly, by the way, because it's been a while. I just want to make sure all my tech and everything is running. So I watched the video, and I'm like, I can't understand why they took this down, because all I did was read an article. Thank you, brother. I meant to do that. Sante Sana for your assistance. So, all I did was read an article and break down the article or whatever, right? And then this is what I noticed. There was a part where I read the definition of vaccine. And I remember this was at the time when they were changing the definition of vaccine. And I said, that's why. It had nothing to do with the article. Because, it's a news article. I'm reading a news article. All right, thank you, sister. I said, they were in the midst of, the video was up for 2 years, sister. They were in the midst of that. All right, how many people read George Orwell's 1984? You can just put 1984 in the chat if you read it. In George Orwell's book 1984, and I haven't read it in a while, but this concept stuck with me my whole life. And it used to be mandatory when I was in school to read that book, weirdly enough, right? There's a concept that I call Orwellian doublespeak, and then there's a concept called newspeak. And from my recollection, the main character, who name I can't even remember, Peace of Brother Dawood, the main character job was like to edit like magazines and books and change the meanings of words in them. Right. That was like, I believe that was his job. So, that book was written, I guess literally like 100 years ago now, or close to it. We're living so much in that time that we're here now seeing them change the meaning of words in front of us and then condemning people who say, wait a minute, that's not the meaning of the word. Here's the definition right here. They're like, no, it's not. Go back and look at it again. Then you go back and look at it again, and they change the definition by the time you go back and look at it. Right. So that's literally what they didn't say that, but that's why the video was taken down. And so when the video gets taken down, you get a strike. You can't post for a week. So I was like, all right, cool. Then I got to the point where I got used to not posting, and I got used to having free time, and I got used to just not doing the YouTube thing. And I got used to not even posting as much on Instagram, and I got used to getting away from the social media thing. But another thing happened. So while I was away, I think either I did the lecture. Yeah, I did the lecture while I was away. I did the Dr. Welsing lecture. But in between that time, I was not really, really active the way I've been for the last decade of consistently trying to organize and do race work and teach and inform people and all that stuff we do, right? Meanwhile, Brother Genie's been doing this thing. He's one of the things he's done, and I need to put the videos up. I was trying to put them up on Instagram. They wouldn't let me put them up. He's been going to the Maryland State Senate, where they just have a litany of bills pushing LGBT, right? And he's been standing strong on that. It's so bad that he's been people who are not our people, our normal supporters, have been praising him and thanking him for coming up there standing against this stuff, right? They're pushing it on the children, and that's what he's standing against. So yeah, hopefully, brother, hopefully the vigor is ferocious. So while he was doing that, I'm gonna be honest. Let me just be as candid as I can be. I was having for lack of a better word, a crisis of confidence. Not in the sense of can I do it? Because I've done it. So it's not a thing. But in the sense of, is what I was doing, was it relevant? Was it making a difference? And was it necessary? Right? Because it's not like the world stops when you stop. Right? You know what I'm saying? And people continue to do what they do. And so if you don't see a demonstrative change, then you can get into the belief that nothing has changed, therefore nothing I was doing was relevant. It's one of those type of things. So I was talking to some brothers and they were like, nah, you don't understand how this works. What you do isn't seen by you, but if you stop doing it, you will see it. Right? Which is weird because many years ago, an older brother who I disagree with about almost everything told me something similar, right? Apparently I didn't learn the lesson. So I went through that. And then I had to do the Dr. Welsing lecture, which I was not going to do. But I remember years ago, I had said, anything we start, we have to continue. No matter what. Because the people Once you tell the people you're gonna do something and you say we're gonna do such and such annually, you have to do it. So I was the one that started the Dr. Chancellor Williams Day. I believe Brother Jeannie was the one that started Dr. Welsing Day. And what happened was that Dr. Welsing Day came out of the attack on Dr. Welsing by the LGBT the minute they found out that she had transitioned, right? Mark Lamont Hill was leading the charge to disparage the name of Dr. Welsing. That was in 2016. That was the first time that I had picked up a microphone to represent Straight Black Pride movement, right? And there's a reason I'm telling that story, because it really is going to lead into tonight's subject. And so I did the lecture. I'm actually, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it. I may have to edit like maybe I may edit the last 2 years together. I'm gonna do it some type of way. I'm gonna either just edit this one because I had some tech issues, or I may just edit them two together. I'm not sure yet because I've been working on that. And then I'm going to just have a rewatch, a watch party of it, where it'll be free. Where everybody can go to a site, watch it, and discuss it in the chat or whatever. So, so I did the lecture, and I got a great response from the people. A lot of people came out, and then I realized what happens is that the information gets old to you. And if you present it in the same place like I've been doing, like, just around this area, you think that it's old information, or it's not relevant, or it's not meaningful. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? And what I realized in that moment with that response from people who had never seen it and had never had that type of discussion, it reminded me the necessity of what we do, because no one else is going to do it. It's like an old Brand Nubian song where they said nobody can be you but you. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I stop doing what I do, it's not like random person walking down the street is going to say, you know what? I think I need to do what that brother over there was doing, because, hey, why not? I can be him. It doesn't work that way. Especially in this time, in this space, taking a stand against what we take a stand against, because you're penalized for it. Right? So the concept of not being necessary was really ridiculous, but sometimes you get in your own head. And I believe part of it is was a matter of warrior fatigue, which is real. That's why Bob Baruti says that warriors have to have rest, because the enemy is relentless. Because, hey, I'm gonna tell you what it's like. Y'all gonna laugh when I say this. It's like the superhero, like Batman, right? Like, Batman's a man. No matter how much training he do and how all his expertise and gadgets and skills and all that, he's still a man. Batman's enemies usually have people that they pay to fight Batman before he even gets to them. You see what I'm saying? Have you ever noticed that? Like, the Joker has 30 dudes with him, or the Penguin got 40 dudes with him. You know what I'm saying? And Batman is like him, and maybe like a Robin or some other dude, or things are really bad, it's time to call Superman. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, it's Batman versus 100 dudes. And that's kind of when you stand up against evil. That's literally what it's like. It's you, a couple of your folks, the entire world. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it feels like sometimes. It just, and I think that's part of the hats thing, is to just make it exhausting to fight. And they do a good job of it. because they got enough money to throw around and have people talking all types of nonsense and backwardsness, and you looking around like, bruh, what is happening? Indeed, brother. Africa versus everybody. So that explains, and I didn't mean to take 20 minutes to do it, but that explains why you haven't seen me in these YouTube streets. So tonight's discussion, speaking of Africa versus everybody, the U.S. open assault, homophile assault on Africa. So we're going to add this. Hold up. My bad. We're going to add this. For some reason the buttons are very sensitive today. And we can go with our first article, right? And the first article deals with First Lady. I almost forgot her title. Jill Biden. She goes to Kenya, and this article was from February. And the thing about it is, right, is if you notice, what does it say? Jill Biden talks safe sex and condoms with with Kenya's young people. First of all the things that Kenya needs, and I'm not Kenyan, so I don't know all the things that Kenya needs, but if it's anything like everywhere else where Black people are, the list of things they need is definitely longer than my arms, and probably as long as Shaq's arms if we write in very small writing. But yet, what is she over here talking about? Quote unquote, safe sex and condoms. Now, here's my thing. Whose parent are you that lives in Kenya? None of your children live in Kenya. You're nobody's mother, grandmother, aunt, or nothing. Who are you to have this type of intimate discussion with people in Africa when a lot of times young people in Africa not talking to their mothers and fathers about this stuff? And who sent their children there to listen to this European female have this type of intimate discussion with their children? And why do we allow these people to come into our spaces and give us this rhetoric and this psychological warfare, and let them just war on our children continuously? Because if she's talking about that just opens up the discussion for all types of other inappropriate stuff, right? So she goes over there, she does that, she says that she has these discussions, blah, 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 blah. She has meetings with government officials. We know that. We know how this works. You don't just go over there and meet with random young people, young adults, children, and all that. And so she does that. And I don't even know if it's worth even reading the article. Let me just look at it and see if there's anything in here worthwhile. Because I just picked them up and I scanned through them and I didn't read them all. Not gonna lie to you. Okay. It says it was a Saturday of learning for U.S. First Lady Jill Biden in Kenya. She praised young adults for learning about quote unquote safe sex and dating practices, attended a meeting of women who created their own banking system, and chatted with local entrepreneurs who have been helped by a program that connects tractor owners and farmers. All three programs aim to help women and young people take control of their lives so they can support themselves and their families. Stop right there. What's so hilarious is, I'm not gonna lie, I scanned the article, but I didn't read the article. Here's what you know is the trick. The trick is that they said the programs that they have focus on what? The women. Not the men, but the women. Not the men and the women, but the women. In other words, she went over there to spread what? Feminism. And I just did a lecture on it a month ago. Less than a month ago. This is how it works. I said in that lecture that in the European conception of what power is, it's a zero sum game. So whenever you say a European give power to any subgroup, they're taking power from another subgroup, right? So just think of it. They think of power like a pie, right? You got 360 degrees, and that if you take something out and get handed to somebody else, then that much less is available to the other person or group of people. So when you see them quote unquote empowering women, they're depowering men. And this concept was exposed by one of their feminist icons, and I'm drawing a Betty Ann Friedan, where she talked about it, the one that wrote The Feminist Mystique back in the 60s. She said in an interview that's part of the lecture that part of Piece of Black Pearl Inc., part of what she called the revolution, which she was talking about the feminist revolution, is telling men that they don't have to be strong and masculine and have big muscles and they can let their hair grow and all this stuff. So in other words, her concept of empowering women was of feminizing men, and she stated it plain as day 50 years ago, and none of us ever saw it or listened to it or thought about it, but now we already here. And now Jill Biden is over there running the same game that they ran here 50, 60 years ago. I got the video clip. The clip is so old, it's in black and white. And the way it was filmed is like real weird. And it make her look kind of like a ghost because her face is moving, but the shadow of her face still stays up on the thing. Right, sister, Urugu is silly. And so I wanted to start there because we can see as we go through these articles the pattern of assault. And I didn't even think about it till I was sitting around. I was talking to Brother Jeannie, and it dawned on me that Jill Biden went over there to East Africa, right? In Kenya and I believe Namibia. While she's doing that, Kamala is in Ghana, in West Africa. And then next thing you know, Uganda takes a stands up strong, and then you have Malema pop up in South Africa. And I don't even think I brought up the Malema article. I gotta look that up. Wow. I gotta look that up because y'all gotta see. I have to show y'all this article. So, brother, you got ripped off. Do not let me forget the Malema article because I had to find it. Right. So that's Jill Biden. Let me read this quote real quick because this is important. Because I talked about this before. These issues are really all people need to talk about, and yet somehow they don't. Think about that. She said, these issues, safe sex, which means birth control, which means cutting down your population, are all people need to talk about, and yet somehow they don't. And the consequences of not talking about it are dire. Biden told dozens of young people after talking with them about safe sex, condom use, and birth control at the Shoe Jazz Connect Festival, a local youth empowerment event. So I love seeing the young people here. Why does she love seeing the young people here? She loves seeing the young people there so she can give them the propaganda about birth control. When they say birth control, they mean kill your population. Reduce your population. Now, we know Bill Gates has been talking about population control for I don't know how long. And the Rockefeller Foundation had a document they wrote up in the 50s talking about population control. The Rockefeller Foundation. I presented that information before. So when you see her coming over there talking about this stuff, this ain't new. It's not no conspiracy theory. We got the documentation. So that's her there doing this. So then let's go to the next article. The U.S. promises to stand up for LGBT rights in Kenya. And look at this. They have rainbow African masks. This article is like 2 weeks after she was there. And the U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman, she sent out a tweet. Says, over the past week, my team and I met with the LGBTQI plus community and stakeholders to support quote unquote human rights of LGBTQI persons. The U.S. proudly advocates efforts to protect LGBTQI persons from discrimination and violence and will continue to stand up for human rights and equality. This is the ambassador of Kenya. So what does that mean? That's a threat. That's a threat. Now, the question you have to ask, well, if Jill Biden was over there and she said what she said, why would they be issuing this threat? Well, because right after she left, what happened in Kenya? Kenya's president criticizes court ruling on LGBTQ group. Mind you, this is like during Jill Biden's visit that this court ruling came down. Says President William Ruto of Kenya criticized a recent Supreme Court ruling that allows an activist to register an LGBTQ rights organization, reiterating Thursday that the country's stance on same-sex marriage remains unchanged. The national board that oversees non-governmental organizations had denied the activist registration request. Kenya's High Court and the Court of Appeal said the board acted improperly, and on February 24th, the Supreme Court agreed. Mind you, Jill Biden was over there on the 24th, dismissing the board's further appeal. Ruto said the government respects the Supreme Court's 3-2 decision ruling, but that our culture and religion does not allow same-sex marriages. It is not possible for our country, Kenya, to allow same-sex marriages. It will happen in other countries, but not in Kenya, he said. The Supreme Court majority noted in its decision that the same-sex marriages are illegal in Kenya. Kenya's penal code also criminalizes intimate relations between people of the same sex. Efforts by activists to get the court to scrap the colonial era law have not succeeded. An anti-LGBT group in the coastal city of Mombasa this week protested the Supreme Court's decision allowing the NGO focus on LGBTQ rights. Kenya is a largely conservative and religious country. Ruto encouraged religious leaders Thursday to ramp up education to promote what he referred to as traditional values. Let's stop right there. That's the end of the article. So we got to stop right there. I want to go back to something real quick. They said that it's a colonial era law. Here's the trick in that wording. Here's what they do. The trick, and we'll see it later in another article, that they do is try to say that that we got being against gayness from the colonizer. When in reality, the only reason that we didn't have laws against it was because we didn't even have words for it. You see what I'm saying? So we didn't have to write a law because no black man that was looking at an African woman was thinking about anything other than being with a woman, because we already know how sisters look in their natural state. And if you're a man in your natural state and you haven't, nobody hasn't been dilly dallying with you when you were a young child, it's never going to enter your mind to deal with anything else. And for sisters, the same thing. Talking about a country with Maasai warriors 8 feet tall. You know what I'm saying? Brothers over there all buff and cut up and everything, looking like superheroes. Women over there just, you know, voluptuous and whatnot. These are people not thinking about none of this stuff these people talking about unless you introduce them to it. And we know it because now we got books on it. We know that the Europeans brought their filth and degeneracy with them to these places that they colonized. But they tell us, and especially the sisters, they go for this hook, line, and sinker. I don't care where you at in the world. They try to tell us that we were the homophiles and that the European were the straight people, despite the fact that their classical culture, Greco-Roman culture, classical European culture was built on a foundation of misogyny and homophilia. Plain and simple. So King Hannibal himself, his father, saw how the Romans were. It was like, oh, now my God, now we got to fight these people. We got to fight these people. We got to fight these people. And the thing is, they never took that. Our ancestors never got to write down and tell us exactly what it was that they were fighting. We read about these. You go read Destruction of Black Civilization. You read about these wars, but you don't get the whole. What is it culturally that's making the people stand up and be like, "Oh, nah, that's what they about." We just thinking it's just the normal killing and rape that we think of as European. Yeah, but raping a who? That's the part, we forget. You see what I'm saying? It's only when you start getting to the documentation of stuff like a cabin boy. And for those that don't know, a cabin boy, when we talk about these Europeans and taking these long trips, the captains will have an adolescent boy with them on the trip to service him. Which means at first they were doing it to their own children, which goes all the way back to the squires and goes all the way back to the quote unquote mentors back in Greco-Roman times. So they just got this same concept, just has different names in different time periods. This is a base part of their culture. That's right, brother. The gymnasiums. But yet they want to tell us that we the homophiles and they the ones that straight, even though they got a history in their culture of not even liking women. So the concept is ridiculous. The highest form of misogyny is homophilia. Because you don't even want to be with a woman. You don't want to be intimate with a woman. You don't want to make the permanent connection with a woman to reproduce life. So the whole concept of LGBT is an anti-life concept, and it's a self-hating concept because you don't want to replicate yourself through the natural law. Brother Awu said in Arab culture, the cabin boy is called the chai boy or the tea boy. You see what I'm saying? These people, they share this stuff. You don't find none of this in ancient Kemet. You don't find none of this in Yoruba, Igbo culture, or anything like that. You find that this is their stuff. That's right, sister. And their interactions is violent. I never forget. When I read Barbara Rudy stuff, it took me to oh man, it was one of those 1980s movies. I think the dude was cheating on his wife or whatever. I can't remember the name of the movie. It's one of the old 1980s movie. I wasn't even a teenager when this movie came out. But I just remember the scene where they were getting intimate and they was like ripping each other's clothes off and throwing each other against, I think they was on the elevator or something, but throwing each other against the wall. And I was like, yo, what? You know what I'm saying? Again, I'm a boy and I'm looking at it and I'm just like, what is this? Like, why are they so aggressive? I'm like, is this what it's like to? Is this what being with a woman is like? Because this kind of wild, right? That Michael Douglas movie, right, sister? You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of the movie. Actually, it might have been a couple of his movies. I think he kind of had that was kind of his thing. Now that I mention. Anyway, but my point is, you can study those things and see their culture, like that. And Brother Genie has broke it down with how all those things interact with the mind of the European, going back to there. Yeah, Basic Instinct was one of them, but that wasn't the only one. I'm thinking about one before Basic Instinct. Right? So that's out of their culture. Our culture is different. And what's deep is, and I ain't mean to go all into this tangent, but I remember like certain things sister started doing or talking about, and I was like, when this become a thing? And I said, okay, we are taking on their mind so much that we down doing stuff and down with stuff that's from them, right? So let me get back to the next article. So we see the attack in East Africa with Kenya, right? And what's interesting is I think it was Kenya. And brother, you got ripped off would know because he's seen the lecture like 5 times. I think it was Kenya where they went and they were paying people to do a study because they were saying that the men, it was either Kenya or Somalia, they were saying the men were too masculine. And at the same time, they had given a drug for, I think, tetanus. And they found out that the tetanus vaccine was making the women sterile. It was definitely a Northeast African country. I'm pretty sure it was Kenya. This was about 10 years ago now. Thank you, Sister Vanessa. And so it's interesting that they did that like 10 years ago, and now they back over here pushing this homophile agenda. And of course, Brother Genie's been over there and he's fought against it. I guess it seemed like that was like 4 years ago he went over there. So this has been an ongoing battle. They've been relentless with their assault, and so we have to be relentless with our resistance. So that goes on. Kamala Harris goes. While this goes on, recently Kamala Harris was in Ghana. This is the Advocate. It says Kamala Harris promotes LGBTQ plus. It seemed like they forgot some letters too. They like me. I be forgetting letters. And they done stole so many letters of the alphabet, you don't know which ones are left. Rights in Ghana as quote unquote homophobic bill is considered. See how this works? You make a bill that says, you know what? Let us protect our sovereignty and our sanctity of our community. And then they send these people out. Now, I don't have the clip because I don't have it on this computer. I thought I had it on this computer. But I'll just remind you all quickly. It would have been better if it was in her words, but I'll remind you all. This is the same Kamala Harris that was asked directly, would she do anything for Black people? And she said, no, I'm not going to do anything for Black people. Because if I do anything for all people, then it'll help black people. In essence. And y'all know the clip that I'm talking about. So that's who she is. Now, if you don't want to do anything for black people, why are you in Africa? Just let us take a moment to digest that. You don't want to do anything for black people. Why are you in Africa, where black people are? Because you're not in the Arab part of Africa. You're in the black part of Africa. You in black Africa, where everybody's black. Everybody's identifiably, unmistakably black. And you're there. But you're not going to do anything for black people. So if you're not there to do anything for the people, well, then why are you there? So, says Vice President Kamala Harris has spoken out for those folk, rainbow rights. Let's do it. I ain't got to read all these letters. For rainbow rights while visiting Ghana. So now we know why she was there. Where legislation would impose harsh punishments for rainbow identity and advocacy. Advocacy just means spreading rainbowism. That's what we're going to use. That's a word we're going to use from now on. Rainbowism. So they apparently had some laws where they're like, look, this rainbowism is out of hand. Enough's enough. Stop spreading this stuff to our children. And then they sent her out. They sent the police. That's right, Cop Mala, right? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They called the police on Ghana for trying to stay straight, black, and proud. That's what happened. They sent the cop over there. And she's like, all right, that's enough of this straightness. You're going to bend over and take it, buddy, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's basically what happened. So, she said, I feel strongly about the importance of supporting freedom and supporting fighting for equality amongst all people, that all people are treated equally. Now, let's think about what she just said. She's for supporting freedom and supporting the equality amongst all people, that all people are treated equally. But at the same time, she sat up there and just told us that she's not going to do anything for black people, while then claiming that black people haven't been treated well while she was standing at the point of no return in that same Ghana. You see the contradictions here. You see the Orwellian doublespeak. You see the confusion that they're showing. You're in America. You claim that, yes, racism is real and America has a history of racism, but you're not going to do anything for black people specifically, even though you say you know that we're treated unequally. But if you're not going to do anything specifically to address that, then what in the world are we talking about here? What type of Orwellian doublespeak is going on? Because if a group of people have been wrong for 400 years, then it takes 400 years to get the group of people going in the right direction. And they got to be treated specially. My brother, BB40 and Straight Black Pride, the brother Desaline. Hey, brother, hey, we glad to have you here. So this is what we're dealing with. We know that this is a person that's a disingenuous person, period. Right? So if she's over there, in essence, to push LGBT, because that's what she said, push rainbows. She's made that statement about freedom and all that gobbledygook, while Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, who be going out like a bad knee and a bad back. I mean, that dude not strong at all, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Under the proposed bill introduced in 2021, advocates of rainbows would face up to a decade in prison. Public displays of too much happiness amongst men or cross-dressing could lead to fine and jail time. And certain types of medical report would be illegal. which means probably that if you mess around and bust up somebody's backside and injure them, that both of y'all are short because you shouldn't have been doing it anyway. You don't get no medical support. You know what I'm saying? That's probably what they saying. And I'm not mad at them. At the news conference, Akufo-Addo said the bill is being made less restrictive. That means what he's saying is we're bending over. That's all that means. Said the legislation would also ban marriages for people who have had gender confirmation. What? Gender confirmation surgery. Let me think about that. Oh, ban marriages for Transformers. Make it illegal for news outlets to distribute material the government considers pro-rainbow and require people in the country to suspect rainbowism. Oh man, this is a great bill. Hold up. It could also force intersex people into surgery and rainbows into conversion therapy. Ghana already has anti-sodomy laws, but they are often not enforced. All right, hold on. All right, let's process this. Y'all help me out. So they got legislation against marriage, what they call gender confirmation surgery, which means if you think it's something else and you want to chop off body parts, then you can chop off body parts. And they're like, nah. They like, nah to that. Nah, you ain't chopping off nothing because we don't want you coming back claiming that you was tripping and that you want your stuff reattached because it don't work that way. It's a one-way road, so we ain't letting nobody take the road. And then he said that my understanding is that substantial elements of the bill have been already modified as a result of the intervention of the Attorney General, which means he's telling her we're bending over as fast as we can, as far as we can. Bending over and giving evil an opening, as Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad would say. And these are the people that are our leaders. But we shouldn't be surprised here in America because we've seen the same thing. Let us go back. Let us go back and think about this, right? Because I remember seeing it so clearly. How many people remember Black people's attitude towards rainbowism before President Obama? Just put a 1 in the chat if you remember what it was like back then. Nobody was talking about this stuff before Obama. Then Obama came in and was like, hey, man, we need to consider this and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And then suddenly, overnight, rainbows just popped up, literally fell out of the sky onto the planet and infected people, and everybody was pro-rainbow. And it's like, hold up, when did we have a meeting and agree to this, and where was I at? Because I ain't with it. Like, we had preachers in Prince George's County, which is next door, who were like standing strong, and then all of a sudden, like, their support just disappeared. People were voting against the stuff one election and voting for the next election. And when you look back at Obama's presidency, literally rainbowism is the only thing you can think of that he did of note. And when it comes to Black people, nothing. Now, after he said, as Otto said that, one of the parliament members who sponsored the legislation, Samuel Nartey George, said on Nigerian TV that it remains as tough and as rigid as it was. When the president says the bill has been watered down, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So my man is like, nah, bro. We not going out like no suckers. We standing strong. Now this says activist Danny Bediako said life is already difficult for rainbow Ghanaians, with 27 anti-rainbow attacks reported this year. I'm gonna just be completely honest. I mean, that sounds like a low number to me. That sounds like a very low number because, being completely honest, people on the continent, when they get outraged about stuff, somebody getting hurt. Like that. I mean, literally, that's how they roll. When they get outraged about stuff, like they show it over here as like, just like, it's something unreasonable and people acting crazy and whatnot. Man, usually somebody had done something they wasn't supposed to be doing, and the people were like, "Oh, we're not having that," and they just go to town on the person, and then they beam it to us as just some type of unreasonable violence. But normally, somebody's doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. Now, the nation's information minister, Kojo Opong Nkrumah, told CNN that the bill may change as it goes through debate in Parliament, and it is not one of he said it is not one of the government's priorities. We are not pressured in any way to focus on things that are not essential within our main priorities, he said. Our priority number one is getting the Ghanaian economy on track, and that's what we're focused on. China has heavily invested in Ghanaian business, which of course we know that's going from the fire, what do you call it? The frying pan to the fire. And Harris' visit is widely seen as a way for the U.S. to counter China's economic influence in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa. She is scheduled to go to Tanzania and Zambia this week as well. Those countries also have LGBTQ laws. Stop right there. Those two things are contradictory. Allegedly, she's in the U.S. to counter China's economic influence. But then the next thing it says, she's going to two countries that have anti-rainbow laws. So she's not going to counter China. She's going to counter straight black pride, basically. Harris's time in Ghana included a visit to Cape Coast Castle. Hold up. Can y'all see this? Check how they wrote this. This is so, man, this is wicked. Says Harris's time in Ghana included a visit to Cape Coast Castle where women were held before being placed on ships to the Americas, with enslavement awaiting them. Somebody tell me what's wrong with that sentence. Anybody tell me what's wrong with that sentence. I can't believe they wrote that. I don't know who wrote this article. I can't believe they wrote it like that. I can't believe they wrote it like that. This is wild. So she goes to Cape Coast Castle. And this thing says where women were held, as if men and children were not held and sent off into enslavement. Says she laid flowers there and walked through the door of no return, as the Africans did on their way to the ships. Who wrote this? Okay, the Advocate. Okay, I didn't even recognize. It's a pro LGBT news source. Isn't it interesting how they wrote that? The men and the children that were enslaved don't even exist in their mind. She went and laid a wreath where women were enslaved. And KW Don says, why doesn't Kamala go to Saudi Arabia? Don't they have anti-rainbow laws? Hey, they got plenty of them. Yeah, go over there and tell them that. Go over there and see how they, how they take that. All right, so we're through with that article, right? Now, as a reminder, I had forgot this. Kamala Harris's father claims that they are descended from Scottish Irish enslavers. I'm just putting that out there just as a reminder of who she is at her core. She's a descendant of enslavers, according to her father. So if her father is not 100% black, right? And her mother's 100% Indian, how is she black? I'm just going to lay that on the table. Sister Spirit Mind Character Soul says, yeah, the same circuit they hit the jab with those who accepted the jab, Tanzania, after transition to Magufuli. Yeah, right. And Magufuli was standing strong, and then all of a sudden, he wasn't breathing. Sister Vanessa, like, she just absolutely disgusted. And amazingly, I've lost all, according to these numbers that I have up here, I've lost almost half my audience around the time I started talking bad about Obama. I don't know if it's accurate, but it's funny. If it is, it's hilarious. It's like, even this day and time, even if you bring documentation, you can't talk bad about Obama. Apparently, it is what it is. Now, do I want to go to this one first? I just posted this on Instagram. This brown skinned chocolate sister with a nice smile is Naledi Mpungose. And she says, let's go back. Ancestors were gay. EFF MP slams anti-homosexuality bill. I'm going to let y'all take all the time that you need to process that information. And what we're going to do, instead of reading the article, is we're going to play. Do I have her video? We're either this is her video or this is Malema. But we're going to play this video. So hold up. Give me a second to load this up.
Hello, South Africa. Ancestors were gay, EFF MP slams anti-homosexuality bill. In light of the anti-homosexuality bill, economic freedom fighters, EFF, Member of Parliament Naledi Mpungose has blasted Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, saying he should read to find out about the sexuality of Africans before colonialism, boldly claiming ancestors were gay. The party held a picket outside the Ugandan embassy in Pretoria on Tuesday, April 4, calling for Museveni not to sign the bill into law. On March 21, the Ugandan parliament overwhelmingly passed the Anti-Homosexuality Bill, 2023, and under the bill's provisions, a person who publicly identifies as LGBTQ+ could face 20 years in prison. If signed by President Yoweri Museveni, the bill will add to the already existing colonial-era ban on homosexuality. The former EFF student activist took to Twitter to say that everything about the bill is colonial. President Museveni and the Parliament of Uganda must pick up books and read rocks if they want to know about the sexuality of Africans pre-colonization. There is nothing African about killing Africans because they are gay. Everything about the anti-homosexuality bill is colonial, she wrote. Furthermore, when responding to a person who commented on her post, the EFF member took it a step further and said ancestors were gay. Then you don't know yourself or your lineage, even your ancestors were gay. Hatred of gays comes from colonial rulers, same as hatred for your skin color, not our esteemed ancestors, she said. This is Leah for the South African. Please subscribe for more news updates.
Shout out to the South African for for bringing us that report. So y'all know I'm not making it up, you know. So yeah, so that is her stance. And she basically tried to call Museveni ignorant, talking about your ancestors were gay. Now, the fundamental part of that argument, which doesn't make any sense, is if his ancestors were gay, he wouldn't be here. That's kind of how the gay thing works, right? That's on a base fundamental level. It's like, hold up. Let's stop right there. Second of all, and Barbara Rudy pointed this out, anything negative that they could write about us, the Europeans did in their history books. They called us all types of savages, bones in your nose, swinging on trees, all types of stuff. The Tarzan movies, this and this and that. But what is the one thing that they never said? They never called us gay. Oh, hold up, Sister Fonessa. You said it was a black female holding up the pedo flag. I've been saying that they will be black folk accepting children being violated. No, I've watched this thing twice, and I'm normally the one pointing out the hidden pedophilia, but the sister saying, "Nah, it's right at the front. You missed it, brother." Okay, I got another clip with Malema, and it's from the same event, so maybe it'll show up there. Otherwise, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take this later on, chop it down, and then highlight that. So thank you, sister, because I missed it completely. Because I'm still just outraged at her calling people ignorant for being straight. Like, oh my God, you like women. What is wrong with you? Like, ma'am, that's how you got here. What is wrong with you? Like, why is this even a discussion? So we see it's not just Malema. It's not a personal Malema thing. We see this is their political position. As far as they're concerned, and I've had this discussion with people years ago. It's always sisters. I hate to say it. But this is the same ideology. As far as they're concerned, you can't be revolutionary if you're not for rainbows. Ain't no such thing as straight revolutionary. Let them tell it. So to heck with all those people that was fighting in Kenya and fighting in Azania and fighting in Ghana and fighting in all Ethiopia. To heck with all those people. The heck with Emperor Menelik and all them folks that was fighting and they had wives and the women had husbands and the men and women were fighting together, and the Black Panther Party people that was fighting together and shooting against the as they could call it, the pig, and the pig is shooting them, and they fighting and dying together. And the heck with Fred Hampton for being straight. And far as he concerned, ain't none of them revolutionary. Right? KW Don says Malema's controlled opposition. He was always a faker. Hold up. Thank y'all. I almost forgot. I gotta find this article. Because I forgot. All right, hold up. Give me a second. I have to find this. I have to post this article. I put the article up, and now, but I didn't load it up here. So I have to find the article on my phone and then search for it in the search bar. So that's the EFF position, though. This is not just him. It's the entire organization is built around being pro LGBT. Now, this article, and I believe this is from Uganda. We're going to read this and then we're going to watch. No. Hold up. Nah, let's get Malema in his own words. No, pardon me. Let's load up the Malema video with him real quick. That's what we're going to do. So Let's watch this.
It's a human rights issue. It's a human rights issue. When someone starts by taking away your right to live freely in the country, when someone tries to take away your right to roam freely as a citizen, when they put crimes that you've known committed onto you and take away every right of privacy, where your neighbor and your relative and your friend can report you in for being a queer, for being a homosexual.
Being queer in Uganda is one of the hardest things somebody can be. Being a Ugandan is one thing, and being an LGBTQI member is also another thing. You literally have to live in fear. You literally can't go out there and feel free to dress however you want to dress, to speak however you want to speak, or walk however you want to walk. You are literally stripped of your rights. So it's one of the hardest things.
How are you going to identify that a person is gay? What scientific method are you going to use that she's lesbian? All you're going to do is to look at a person and out of hatred decide this one is gay, this one is lesbian. It cannot be correct. So we are saying to Museveni, leave the people the way they are. It is not our problem. It is not your problem. It is not a problem. What if Museveni is lesbian or gay himself? What if Museveni is going to discover that much later? Because there are people who discover that even when they are older, that actually this is who I am.
And I've received a copy of your memorandum. My duty here is not to respond to them. It's simply to receive. We promise we'll pass your memorandum to the authority responsible for your concern.
So give me a second, brothers and sisters. So that was Malema, in his own words. And I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't sitting around telling lies on people. Now he's going to disrespect the man and say, well, how did he know that he's not? Think about what that. This is a grown man who is, I don't know how old Museveni is, but he's not a young man. And Malema is saying, how does he know that he's not LGBT? Right? And think about how disrespectful that is. And he's allowed to get away with just making mockery of the brother who's only trying to protect the sanctity of Black people. And I cannot, oh man, it's irritating me because I cannot find this article. So, Sister, who was it? Sister Farnessa, you said something. You said you wouldn't be surprised that if you found out that that Soros was behind Malema, EFF. I'll just say this. You're very close. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read because I cannot get the article to come up, and it's frustrating me. And I apologize for not having it. So what I'm going to end up doing, I'm going to end up doing a radical report on this article since I don't have it here. what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you all this article or part of it from, weirdly enough, I'm pretty sure this is the white nationalist uh, website. But the title says, Meet the Jewish billionaire who controls the media and opposition parties in South Africa. Y'all heard that right? What type of billionaire? What is he? It says some might call Nathan Kirsch the George Soros of Africa. Yet another international stateless billionaire, small hat, who funds radical, let them tell it, they say, quote unquote, I'm putting this in quotes, anti-white, socialist causes such as South Africa's economic freedom fighters led by Julius Malema, while his family also exerts enormous control over Prime Media, the largest media conglomerate in South Africa. Two opposition parties, EFF and Democratic Alliance, together with the DA's MP advocate, Glenys Breitenbach, are being funded by Nathan Kirsch, the director and owner of Israel's Magal Security Systems, which is complicit in the construction of Israel's illegal apartheid wall. Lord Reinwit Clifton, who was a friend of Kirsch, met the EFF in London in 2015. It should also be noted that Breitenbach case was funded through the FW de Klerk Foundation. So he's saying that the clerk, Breitenbach, and this Kirsch guy, is it Kirsch? Yeah, Kirsch guy, are all connected. So Malema is being funded by the hats. So we've seen this play before. They're running the Black Lives Matter play of being quote unquote revolutionary while pushing the agenda here and there at the same time. And Brother Malik is like, so Malema is being funded by Zion. It's not surprised at all, right? And I'm frustrated because I couldn't bring the article up. I had it on my phone and I didn't bring it up here. So I'm gonna do a separate video just on this aspect of it with Malema, different clips of him pushing that agenda, and then we can see the article of this guy. So a billionaire hat is funding EFF, which is basically just a more militant South African version of Black Lives Matter. And they are out here fighting against Uganda, fighting against homophilia. So the black people that we see over there who are pro-LGBT are directly funded by the hats. And we don't have to guess anymore. It's one of them things that we figured in the back of our mind. And then Brother Jenny, like, have you seen this? And I'm like, no, I have not seen this. He like, yeah, check it out. I'm like, yo, they running the same game. He like, exactly. Brother Crow says, I knew that Malema was controlled by small hats, just like Mandela. Exactly. So we're gonna read this last article. And Sister Matrell said, this is not surprising. Thanks for the confirmation. And Asante 1000, who are not familiar with, but they said finally made a live show. Welcome. And Ray Bay says, we figured, just waiting for the confirmation. And Brother Malik says, I remember this one clip where Malema called out the hats for training boys for civil war against Black South Africa, and immediately after he got a talking to and backed off. I remember the clip of him talking strong. I didn't know that he backed off right after that. Thank you for that, brother. I did not know that. So this article here says anti-gay law is Uganda daring the West. All right, so we're gonna hold up. My bad. We're gonna check that out. Now, it says, and this is from a couple of weeks ago, my bad. It says, what you need to know. It says parliamentarians opposed to same-sex activities have since February 28th, when the bill was first read on the floor, vocalized attempts to present Uganda as a highly conservative religious nation with an immaculate pedigree. In 2014, MPs passed a bill that called for life in prison for people caught sodomizing each other, or engaging in anti-life activities. That's what I'm start calling it. I'm start calling it anti-life activities. A court later struck down the law on a technicality, but it had already sparked international condemnation, with some Western nations freezing or redirecting millions of dollars of government aid in response. Did we see how this works now? Let's just stop right there. So, Vivi Fahode to Intellectual Maroons, visiting us from the warm and wonderful islands. So now we see how this works. I think maybe the last time I did a live stream, I was talking about Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And I was talking about how they used the process that they use to get people to conform by giving and then taking money. And this is another variation of it, but instead they use it to push what? The rainbow agenda. So, I mean, this article makes it plain. That's why Confessions of an Economic Hitman is one of my favorite books, because they don't change. They just change the agendas that they use, but the methodology is the same because it works, because we haven't come up with any plays to counter the plays that they're running. That's why a lot of times I compare Brother Genie to like a coach that has broke down the tape and the offense of the other team, and they give you their playbook, but we can't get everybody on board that's wearing our uniform, the uniform that you're given by God, to come together to execute the plays correctly, to counter what the other team is doing, because he already knows what they're going to do before it's done. Right? So we've seen these plays. Now, it says the enactment of legislation which introduces tougher penalties for rainbow people is a major victory for Ugandans. Parliament said on March 21st, upon passing the Anti-Life Bill 2023, that has sparked mixed reactions from stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? That's interesting. I'm not sure what that means. But let's read further. The bill unanimously passed rapidly with a 231 legislative surplus to the required 176 member forum for its adoption. If signed into law, it will obligate Ugandan courts to hand over a 10-year jail term or extreme punishment for offenders. I don't know what is extreme punishment. I mean, if we make a law and we say you can't do this, and then you do it, then you broke the law. I mean, think about it. We get extreme punishment for getting stopped. Random Black people have been stopped on the street, had a crime pinned on them, and thrown under the jail, and then they get out. When they go in, they 20. When they come out, they my age or older. It seems like most of the time people older than me when they come out, even though they're going in 18, 19, 20 years old for a crime that they didn't commit. So how could anything be more extreme than that? But excuse me while I rant and go off on a complete and total tangent. So you can't tell me nothing about no extreme laws. You can't tell me nothing about no extreme punishment. When I live in a country where people get brutalized, murdered for literally walking down the street and breathing. Children are shot down like dogs by the police. The police jumping on top of people's cars, shooting them 100 times. All types of madness. So what extreme laws could there be? There is no rainbow people being shot down in the street like dogs in Uganda. It's not happening. But let us read a little more. Yeah, let's see. It says, how new bill will affect you? Well, the bill is not going to affect me because I don't plan to engage in none of those activities anywhere on earth, and certainly not anywhere in Africa. So I guess we can skip past that part of the equation. In passing the bill, among several other jubilant MPs held that they'd overcome growing pressure and condemnation from internal and external rainbow rights advocates. We recognize that the Constitution contains of Uganda non-derogable rights. I've never seen that word before. I'm not going to lie. And in this process, the House has striven to recognize those rights. But the norms and aspirations of the people of Uganda will always remain supreme, Ms. Amang noted. In what precedents a diplomatic role, Amnesty International, March 22nd, responded describing the bill as ambiguous and vaguely worded law. But again, this is a sovereign nation. It's none of your business. Why are you worried about what we're doing over here? Just don't come over here with the nonsense. Parliamentarians opposed to same-sex activities have since February 26, when the bill first read on the floor, vocalized attempts to present. Oh, okay, I read that part. My bad. Or they rewrote it again. The straight nation government of God has rejected homosexuality. Renowned anti-gay activist Pastor Martin Semper celebrated as he called for only a man-woman marriage ordained by God. Shout out to Martin Semper. I know somebody that knows him. So, Bibi Fahodier, man. Greetings, brother. I didn't see you come in. Brother, Bibi Fahodier, man, says all this money they're giving while floating digital currency. So in essence, they're giving away trinkets and the people don't realize it. Bibi Fahodier, man, that's one of the last things I talked about was the digital currency, and now they're implementing it in a way that I didn't foresee. I foresaw them doing it, but the way they're doing it, I didn't see it. They're bypassing the technology and just going to roughing off people, as we used to say in DC back in the day. Brother Dawood says since 2010, the American Jewish World Service Group has been confronting LGBT issues in Uganda. That's interesting. You said my eyesight is off. Oh, that is no question. Absolutely. So when y'all see me with some Brother Malcolm horn rim glasses toward the end of the year, you see what it is. You understand. I'm not getting any younger. You know what I'm saying? And neither is anyone else. So I had one more clip, and I believe this is from a Uganda station. So we're going to play this clip and listen to what they have to say before we get ready to close out.
Public debate over the meaning and implication of the Supreme Court judgment that recognizes the right to form an association of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, that is LGBTQ community. The Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya and the Kenya's Christian Professionals Forum have said they're joining in the growing condemnation of the Supreme Court decision, saying which they say would erode Kenya's family values. And as Citizen TV's Ayub Abdikadir reports, religious groups continue to express outrage over the contentious judgment.
It is a judgment that has stirred outrage, particularly in the religious circles. with sharp condemnations dominating Sunday after worship remarks and now flowing into the new week. Christian and Muslim leaders have closed ranks over a judgment that effectively extends legal recognition of the LGBTQ community in Kenya.
If this association is so as to spread, popularize, and bring about more and more people into this kind of actions and behavior, then we call it out as evil and must be addressed as so.
Sisi wa Kenya tushikaneni mikono sote pamoja, dini zote, kwa sababu hili si masala ya dini tu, ni masala ya dini na masala ya culture yetu.
The judgment also appears to have confounded constitutional experts, with some suggesting that the Supreme Court will ultimately have to review its own decision.
The court has done what they did based on their interpretation and analysis of the law. So that means there's a problem with this legal analysis, and there has to be a way of resolving the issue.
You can go back to that very Supreme Court for review and request that instead of the 5 judges who determined, we have the whole Supreme Court, which is a bench of 7 judges, said to have a relook at that determination and to come with different, determinations.
People who identify as gay or lesbians or intersex or bisexual enjoy the broad framework of the law, just like those who identify as heterosexuals. The only minimum limitation, the only significant limitation is that they cannot formally be joined as man and wife.
Kenya's constitution, promulgated in 2010, is considered one of the continent's most progressive, complete with a robust Bill of Rights. But the LGBTQ question remains a touchy crossroad for both the law and the people.
The criminalization of same-sex marriages, which is already made an offense under Section 165 of the Penal Code, is part of the discourse to promote the realization that people of different sexual orientation do actually exist, and that we do not need to punish people for identifying with one orientation as opposed to the next.
We are concerned that you have attempts to change our laws contrary to the view of majority of Kenyans, and then introduce behavior and conduct that attacks and damages the family, attacks and damages family values, and therefore the social fabric is affected.
So we are going back to the Supreme Court to remind the Supreme Court that in as much as we keep talking about human rights and fundamental rights, those rights are limited under Article 24 of the Constitution. And among the limitation is that you cannot enjoy your right to associate, to pursue what the law prescribes to be illegal.
The Supreme Court judges had last Friday, in their majority judgment, held that a decision by the lower courts to deny members of the gay community in Kenya their right to register as a non-governmental organization was discriminatory. The judgment followed a close to a decade-long court battle by the LGBTQ community for right to be registered as a non-governmental organization. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, my bad. That was for Kenya. I think I misspoke and said it was for Uganda. But the point being, now we don't realize here how huge this is. For Christian and Muslim Africans to come together and agree on virtually anything shows you how detrimental they see it and how backwards the ideas are that's being presented. That if they can come together, like, hold up, this is not us. It's not what we're about. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, or natural African spiritualist. None of us agree with this. Get this out of here. Sister Matrell says there's so many other issues Kenyans need to address. It's amazing they waste time on this one. How about getting people access to electricity, clean water, and stable housing? Well, of course, those are things they need to address. But when people are being funded in your country and you're being assaulted from the outside, and these NGOs come in, which are funded by hats. You have to fight this because you stop reproducing children, you ain't got to worry about no water because you ain't gonna have no people. You know what I'm saying? In the long run. So as Black people, wherever we are, we have to be able to fight multiple battles on multiple fronts because we're being attacked by multiple people at multiple times. Brother Kevin says the EFF and NGOs over there, just like BLM and other alphabet crew advocacy groups over here, they're 21st century mercenaries. Indeed. You ever wonder how the alphabet mafia always claim they're dying by the thousands every day, but they are always here when I wake up the next day? How about that, brother? Because they're not reproducing and they're not producing more themselves by reproduction, and how you under assault and not disappearing. That's an excellent point. So, brothers and sisters, I'm gonna be honest. I have greatly enjoyed this discussion. I hope it has been worth your while. And I hope we can see now. I wish I had a map of Africa I could put up. I told Brother Genie, I said, this is I told him it's a psychological, but it's a psycho-spiritual, cultural pincer maneuver that they're doing, where they're coming at Africa from the east. Like, for example, in Kenya, they're coming at Africa from the west with homophilia, with Ghana, and they're coming up from the south where they've already conquered. The homophilia has already conquered, Azania, and coming up from that area. And the only reason it isn't coming from the north is because the Arabs in the north are already enslaving Black people and doing who knows what. Again, I've showed that information and documentation in lectures over the last 4 or 5 years or so. So we see the assault on all fronts on the continent, and the people who are most equipped to help them resist this and fight are the people here and the people who are supporting us, people who are connected with SBPM and War on the Horizon. We're the only people that standing strong. Also, I got to say this too. I don't have a clip for it. I don't know if I'm going to do a video for this or not. I didn't know this, but I can't go and talk about what they doing in Azania and talk about Malema and them and they pushing LGBT and all this and that without asking a question. How many people have seen Riza Islam interviewing a transformer? Y'all put one in the chat. And depending on how many people have seen it, I need y'all to tell me what's going on with that. Because I have questions. Now, y'all know I hate saying anybody's name, because I'm not here trying to make my name off of nobody else's name. I don't care to be known. Y'all know I'd hate being public. Y'all know how I am. I'm a private person. I don't like getting into that type of stuff. But I was kind of shocked because my understanding is that's Riza Islam, that's his first show. His first new show was a transformer. Now, all right, let's see. Sister Spirit Mind Character Soul said Flame. I don't know. Y'all saying he's a comedian? Okay, I don't know this person. This is all I'm saying. If you have been, okay, first of all, if you're a member of the Nation of Islam and you're following the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which when I was in the Nation of Islam, Like, well, first of all, no, before I was in the nation, when I used to listen to Malcolm X, and he used to say, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, one of the things he used to teach was he used to teach against homophilia and put it in Message to the Black Man. And yet, I look up, and Rizza Islam is interviewing a transformer. Again, I can't really speak on it because I didn't see it. I just have questions. Of all the people that you could dialogue with, of all the people that you could bring on, of all the people that you could give light to, of all the people who have something relevant to say, why you have a transformer on? See, I have to ask these questions because I can't talk about Malema over there and somebody will point out and be like, what's up with your man that's around the corner? You in America, why you ask him what's going on? You over here asking Malema what's going on, you ain't over here. So I got to ask the question, what's going on? Why are you talking to a transformer about anything in a time of genocide? How's the transformer going to help us avoid genocide? Right? What skill set and abilities, what wisdom do they have to impart to the people to avoid genocide while he's up there looking insane? I have questions. Now, if it wasn't a repeated pattern of certain stuff, I probably might be able to let it pass. But I just gotta watch it and be like, hold up. Because one thing the Quran says, I know for a fact, because I read it, says, mix not up truth with falsehood while you know. Now, people were telling me that allegedly the transformer was saying that transformers shouldn't perform in front of children. So in essence, you have the transformer up there who's false by his presentation of what he is, telling the truth, thus mixing up truth with falsehood, while RZA knows. Think about that. And brother, you got ripped off, said that the impersonator actually spoke about race pride over sexual identity. Again, mixing up what? Truth with falsehood while he knows. And Sister Spirit Mind Character Soul said that Farrakhan sounded crazy defending R. Kelly. You defending R. Kelly? That Eddie Long speech was something to behold. Brother Malik said Black Lives Matter tried to shut down Dr. Umar recently. That's something recent, brother? Or this something that happened before? Because I mean, I've seen something happen before. But if it's something recent, then that's new. And Brother Asante said, why can't you get a normal person to say that? Hey, exactly. Exactly. We got to question these things. Right? Now, I'm not even going to, yes, I am. I'm about to tell a lie. Yeah, I'm going to go back and talk about the fact that when me, Brother Jeannie, some other brothers, a sister went up to New York and talked about this bambooty thing, right? Years ago, and I believe that was 2016, the next week, all of a sudden, we're getting attacked from the rostrum of Mas Mariam by Wesley Muhammad. I have questions. That was weird to me. One of the rare times Brother Jeannie wasn't saying nothing bad about somebody and pointing them out. We get attacked because the only person we were pointing out and attacking was the known homophile Africa Bang Booty. Right? So you got all these people in New York in 2016 taking a stand against homophilia when somebody is exposed for having been molesting boys for decades, and we take a stand against it, and all of a sudden we get attacked, and then pictures pop up. I don't know if they were from that time period. I don't know what was going on. They just pictures came out of nowhere with Bang Booty and Minister Farrakhan hanging together. I don't know if somebody did that to make the minister look bad. I don't know what, but all I know is we was getting attacked for taking a stand against pedophilia. Now the sister Leela Will, she's still taking a stand against pedophilia and against Zulu Nation, and now they're attacking her because the hip hop museum that they built in Brooklyn, they giving money to Zulu Nation under the table through the hip hop museum. So we can't even celebrate hip hop without homophiles and pedophiles coming out and stealing the money. You see what I'm saying? Like this is the type of opposition and stuff we face from people that you think we can agree with on something. So I got to ask the question, what is going on? Because I've seen too many attacks from the same people over these same positions. I got to ask the question, what is going on? Nah, I haven't forgotten none of it because I can't forget none of it. Because if I forget, then it gets smacked in the back of the head again. I mean, at some point, you have to take a position and say, I'm not with this. I'm sorry. I can't have this person on. This person doesn't represent what I want our young people and our people in general to see. This is not a representation of who we are as a people. Nah, I'm good, fam. No, thank you. I can find plenty of brothers to say, hey, we shouldn't be engaged in this behavior. So again, mixing up truth and falsehood is dangerous because it causes confusion. So now I got to ask the questions. And hey, person may hear it, they may not. I don't care. I don't care to go back in the back and forth. I'm asking questions that have to be asked because I can't go over here and talk about Malema and talk about the president of Ghana and talk about these other people. And then people are going to be like, what's up with them folks in your backyard? And I can't sit up here and act like I don't see them because I mean, you can't help but see him. I wasn't paying no attention. Other people sending stuff to me like, hey, yo, what's up with your man? Hold up. Who? Right? So that's where we are. Once again, we're just fighting for African sexual sanity. And we're fighting for it for us here. We're fighting for it for our people on the continent there. I mean, literally, Black people literally just want to be left alone for Black men to be with Black women. But we can't do that because the homophile is always going to push it because they want to get to our children. And that's the part that nobody don't want to talk about. And I've done videos. I don't even know if they're still up because I need to be checking to see if this stuff hasn't been taken down while I wasn't paying attention. But I've done videos talking about what the homophiles talk about the children very quickly. And y'all, brother, you got ripped off. You'd be the perfect person to remind me. Have I gone into, because Brother Jenny talked about it at the legislature, and I realized that it's been so long since we talked about it that people probably haven't seen it or people have forgotten. Have I talked about the 1972 gay rights platform lately? Have we gone over that on this show? Brother, let me know. And if I haven't, we're going to have to go into that. Because people have forgotten, or they never seen it, or they never heard of it. And so we need to get into that. If I haven't gotten into that, which I could have sworn I did, but maybe I just didn't, because I was like, maybe I was thinking that's an automatic strike. Brother Crow said Dr. Khalid Muhammad was totally against the homophile agenda. He wouldn't have tolerated. Oh, absolutely. I mean, bro, don't even get me started on because you gonna remind me now and start thinking about why Dr. Khalid was silenced and moved out, and I don't even want to get into all that, or be another hour. Sister, you said I did talk about it years ago. Okay, thank you. We're gonna. You know how when you were in school and you learned the lesson, and then you have to go back and review to make sure you haven't forgot. We're gonna do a review, because I think it'll be real interesting for people to see the review. So, and I don't know if it'll probably be recorded. I don't think it'll be streamed. But Brother Genie, his the anniversary, 14th anniversary of him founding War on the Horizon will be tomorrow. So if that's recorded, I'll see how it can get disseminated. He said he hadn't thought about recording it until I mentioned it to him. But if y'all have a chance to, if y'all can hit him off at the Cashapp to celebrate the 14th year anniversary of War on Horizon, y'all can do that. And y'all can do that via Cashapp. And he would greatly appreciate that. And there's a mission that we're going to send him on. Something big is coming to the DMV area, and so he's going to be on a mission. And I'll probably ask him to come on in the next few weeks, at least sometime in the next month, to talk about what he's been doing, because he's been doing some stuff, and I know everybody's not privy to what he's been doing, but he's been doing a lot of work. Also, the second edition of his book is also out, by the way. Thank you, brother. $sign Ayo Kimati. That's how you can cash out him. Yeah, brother. He will be on. As far as I know, he didn't say he wasn't. As far as I know, he'll be on 10 o'clock as usual tomorrow. So with that, brothers and sisters, man, I'm gonna be completely honest. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's been a long time. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to come on to Rakim's song. It's been a long time, but I ain't want to get the copyright strike. Just coming back. But I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for supporting. These numbers are higher than they normally are. I thank you all, man, for just hanging in there and showing up and interacting in the chat and spreading the word and everything that y'all have done to support me over the years. It has, it's good to see. It's good to interact with the people. It's good to spread these ideas. And I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. Sister Ray Bay says thank you. Now thank you all. And I'm working on a way to put out more content while not getting deleted. Still trying to figure out how to walk that edge. And Brother Derek says next time talk about total separation. Brother, the only thing about that is the hat has shrunk the world. So when you separate, that means you got to like unplug his media and everything else, and that's really the hardest part. The hardest part isn't getting away from them physically. The hardest part is getting away from them psychologically. That's the hard part. And they've shrunken the world with their technology. So the reality of the situation is, we know what the reality of the situation is. Eventually, you're gonna have to deal with the problem. That's the importance of Brother Gene's book about who the problem is. Because once you see who the problem is, then you can address it, and then you can begin to, again, because power is a zero-sum game. Then you can begin to divide up the pie amongst the remaining contestants who are here, who are available. So just be on the, I will post. Oh, one more thing too. I posted a couple of polls on the page. If you haven't voted on those, check those out. Vote on those. Bro, you got ripped off stage. Problem is, you got to baby walk the info while they playing at 5x feet. Yeah, that's real. And brother said, make sure you call in tomorrow. Love your commentary. Thank you, brother. If I get a chance, depending on what's going on. I only like to call certain things, to be honest. Oh, speaking of which, and this is bad news, that a lot of people asked some type of way the discussion, the black male female discussion that we had, you can't get access to that. Some type of way that show got deleted. Blame the radio station. I don't know the details. Some type of way the show got deleted. So everybody that heard that show and enjoyed it, if anybody some type of way recorded that show, let me know or send me an email, because we need a copy of that. But yeah, that one hurt. Think some type of way it might have got overwritten, because when Brother Genie asked for it, it wasn't available. So sorry to tell you all that, but that was a great show. So all right, with that, brothers and sisters, I'm about to close out again, man. I am just very grateful to have been able to spend this time with you all. Yeah, I know, Santi. Yeah, I know. And I will let you all know the next time we'll be able to come together digitally and discuss issues at hand. There is an issue I kind of want to discuss, but I don't know yet. It's a YouTube thing, so I don't know if it's worth talking about. But with that, brothers and sisters, again, I thank you all. I'm eternally grateful. With that, I say a BB for Hodie and straight black.